Welcome to our fourth and final video on our series regarding property division. We previously talked about pronoun problems when identifying and classifying property as marital and non-marital. We've discussed valuation of property, and now we're going to discuss how to divide marital property. First, it's really important to understand that Illinois is a no-fault divorce state, which means we do not address whether one spouse caused the divorce or whether one spouse was more or less at fault for causing the divorce to happen. This can be especially harsh if you've been cheated on because you're in pain and you think you should get something for the pain. The reality is you're not going to get anything more or less because of your spouse. I know this is hard to hear, but the sooner you can accept this, the sooner you can move forward with your new life. In Illinois, we divide property equitably, not equally. Most people assume that all marital property is divided equally, but it's not always that simple. There is not a presumption that property is divided equally, but it usually is a good starting point in most situations. We must divide property equitably or fairly based upon several factors, including contribution, dissipation, agreements of the parties, maintenance, child support, custody arrangements, future income, taxes, length of the marriage, non-marital property of each party, and anything else that's unique to your situation. Let's talk first about dissipation. Dissipation is when one party uses marital funds for a non-marital purpose. The classic example here is having an extramarital relationship. Now you may recall that we don't assign fault in dividing property, but dissipation is one way that the court can consider the actions of a party. If you or your spouse has spent thousands of dollars on someone other than the spouse, it's only fair that you receive reimbursement. For example, let's say they spend $10,000 over several months, and had they not spent that money, you might be entitled to $5,000. There are specific requirements for dissipation, so if you think this applies to your situation, it's important that you speak to your attorney early about this in your case so that the proper procedures are followed. In the last video, I referenced contribution. We had talked about a scenario where your spouse had bought a house prior to the marriage and then you continued to make mortgage payments. In this scenario, that house would remain the non-marital property, but those payments made by the marriage could be subject to contribution. It's probably not going to be a dollar for dollar set off, but it's important that you bring this to your attorney's attention early in a case so that it can be explored fully. Non-marital property is another factor to consider. In the previous steps, we identified, classified, and valued all of the property that you and your spouse own. We cannot divide non-marital property in a divorce, but we can consider it when dividing the marital property. For example, if your spouse has $1 million in their non-marital pile, and then there's $500,000 in the marital pile, the court might say, well, you get 60% of the marital pile because of your unique circumstances. Now, obviously, this is an oversimplification because there's other factors to consider, but you can see how the non-marital property needs to be considered when dividing the marital property. We cannot possibly cover every scenario in this video, but by now, I hope you understand that your situation is different from everybody else's situation. It's important not to compare yourself to others. Instead, you must recognize that your situation is unique. If you and your spouse cannot agree on the division of property, it's important that you speak with an experienced attorney so they can explore everything in your case to help get you the best property settlement for you. I hope you enjoyed our 4-part video series on property division. If you missed parts 1, 2, or 3, please go back and check them out. There's some good information that may help you with your situation. If you'd like our help for your case, we'd be honored to have that opportunity. Please contact us so we can review your options.